Hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some frickin' money. It's time for Pocket with Jo. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Jo here of SportsGrid. It's time for Pocket with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X as well as YouTube. Now, if you're still on a high from last night's game, I tell you what, an absolute thriller between the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues. And if you missed it, what the heck were you doing on your Sunday night? Because the Winnipeg Jets had a beautiful comeback win. Everything looked pretty grim going into the second period, as we did see the St. Louis Blues get 2 early goals on Connor Hellebuyck, but he really was able to get his feet back out under him. We saw Winnipeg then score in the second period, but with like 30 seconds left in the second period, the St. Louis Blues scored again, leading that game 3-1 going into the third period. That third period was absolutely insane. I swear we had under 5 minutes left when they scored their second goal. And then we saw with 1.6 seconds left on the clock, them tie it up and send it to overtime. But it wasn't just overtime. We saw double overtime last night, you guys. Insane game with the Winnipeg Jets being able to get the win in double overtime. Connor Hellebuyck standing on his head. Jordan Binnington played an elite game as well, and both of those teams really did a phenomenal job. Now it came down to the Winnipeg Jets finally were crashing that net. They were taking those shots on goal. They finished with 40 plus shots on goal in that game, with double overtime just being absolutely elite. So if you missed it, go back and watch the highlights, because I tell you, that game did not disappoint. And I hope every single game can be that exciting out there. Now, I know I wrote the under 4.5 in that game. I expected if Winnipeg won, that Connor Hellebuyck wouldn't have allowed in those first 2 goals out there in that first period. So it was a beautiful comeback win. We did get the overtime bet at plus 320, and then we got a couple of our goal scorers out there, our shots on goal props, as well as our block shots. But Josh Morrissey did leave the ice yesterday early in that game in the first period. So we'll see if he is back. The Winnipeg Jets will now go on to face the Dallas Stars. So excited for that series. And we're going to be breaking down all of these series on the daily. So today we're kicking it off round 2, starting here with the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, for the series as a whole, I haven't dropped the video yet. It will be dropping later, but you guys, short and easy. I don't think Toronto has much of a chance. I think the gentleman's sweep will be in play here. Florida will take this in 5. If not 5, they take it in 6. I don't think this one gets pushed all the way to Game 7. You're looking at a Florida Panthers team that just steps up to a different level once they hit the playoffs, and I do expect that to come in this. And then they got the addition of Brad Marchand. Looking at Brad Marchand over his career in the playoffs versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, he always comes out shining. 29 career points in the playoffs versus the Leafs. I do think we're going to see the best out of him tonight, as well as this whole series versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then, we've got Matthew Tkachuk, and the list doesn't stop there. You've got both Sams. We were heavy on Sam Reinhart and Sam Bennett in the first round versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll be looking at them again. Now, when I look at Toronto, I do think that power play will have to convert. If the power play can convert here for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they do have the opportunity. For Florida, they have to stay out of the box. So that's what it comes down to, who's going to win this. I really do think it is Florida. I'm going to lay the 1.5 with the Florida Panthers going into this series. Stay tuned for that series video for sure. But let's jump into this game. Let's jump into the bets. Blake, you cashed a 2-leg yesterday. Kyle Connor, last few seconds for the assist and 2+ points. He had 4-3. Congratulations on Kyle Connor. He had a fantastic night out there. Matthew Tkachuk over 1.5 shots on goal. Let's get it. MMA, a locker room. Good to see you here this morning, and Kev, good to see you here as well. You know I love Matthew Tkachuk for over on his shots on goal. You look at him when he came back into the first game versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, how strong he was after having all of that rest out there on the ice. It was crazy. So last night's game, double overtime, Winnipeg winning that 4-3. High-scoring game. Now we'll see game 1, round number 2 tonight between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So in game number 1, Toronto does have the home ice. So Toronto's coming in at a plus 105 underdog price. And I know it seems tempting here to grab the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I can't do it. I do think Florida wins one or if not both games here in Toronto. It would be pivotal for Toronto to get this first win to really build that confidence, but I don't think they're going to be able to do so. I am looking for defenses to lock down. I look at both of these teams, and if this one goes over, it's because Toronto's able to convert on that power play. We know both of these teams have been so solid defensively with their allowed goals on the season that it has to be, for me, an under 5.5. We haven't seen that, though, in the playoffs thus far. We've seen in round 1 higher scoring games. I'm expecting those lockdowns, those defenses to really start showing up as we get into the second round here, especially as we go deeper into the second round. So while this might be that odd game where we do see go over the 5.5, I'm still thinking we see this one hit the under. So the under 5.5, I'll bet at minus 120. And I will lay the minus 126 here on the Florida Panthers. I just look at their depth that they have of this team, and I think they've got everything that they need to win this game and this series. Bobrovsky on the season, a 906 save percentage. He was able to record 5 shutouts and a 2.44 goals against average. Stolarz, on the other hand, we know he was with Florida last season for their run for the Cup, and now facing his former team here. Stolarz has been great during the playoffs thus far. On the season, he went 21-8-3 with a 2.14 goals against average and a 926 save percentage. Looking at these teams, like I said, with those goals allowed on the season, we saw the Florida Panthers allow only 2.72 goals per game on average and 2.79 here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the kill has been stronger overall in the regular season for the Florida Panthers at 80.7, but this is a Toronto team that is built on that defense as well. That kill coming in at 77.9%. Power plays both sitting right around even, 24.8% on the power play for the Leafs and 23.5% for the Florida Panthers. We saw the Florida Panthers get in here after the gentleman's sweep on the Tampa Bay Lightning, winning that series 5-1. And then we did see Toronto really pushed by the Ottawa Senators, even though they opened up the series so strong. So they won the first 3 versus the Ottawa Senators, but the Senators answered back in a couple, and then they end up taking it in 6. So 4-2 win. Interesting to note, do you guys know the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs made it out of the second round? I'll give you a second. Let me know if you know the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs made it out of the second round, because it has definitely been a hot minute since they've been able to do so. So we're going to see if this team can step up and really get back into playoffs. Second round, okay, so 2 years ago they made it to second round. Last time they got out of the second round, no one's throwing out those guesses, was back in 2002, you guys. That is so long ago since they've been able to do so. So I do think this is going to be a hard battle here. Toronto fans definitely frustrated, but look at what they did on the season. The Maple Leafs went 52-26-4 with 108 points on the season. Wow. The Florida Panthers really slowed down the stretch. They went 47-31-4 with 98 points. They did not care to take that third spot. They won the last matchup between these two 3-1 back in April. And I do think if Florida is to win tonight, it is a very similar style of game out there. Both teams are going to look to set that tone so quickly in this series. I do expect this series to be very physical out there on both sides of it. And we're going to have to see Toronto find an answer for that forecheck of the Florida Panthers, because we know that forecheck is so strong out of them. It's going to be hard for Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, for them to be able to get those shots against his defense. Tavares, they have to find a way to answer back to that pressure, because while we have a high octane offense here, with the Leafs, we have a defense that can absolutely withstand that offense in the Florida Panthers. You look at what they're able to do versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they held the Lightning to 12 goals over 5 games. That Lightning's offense, I think, is a step above what we see out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I could be wrong, but I'm expecting Florida to really hold down Toronto. They only allowed the Tampa Bay Lightning to convert on 2 of their 18 power plays. So that's what I mean. If Toronto is able to get something done in the series, it's because that power play will start converting. If Florida loses this game, it's because they lose their heads and can't stay out of that penalty box. So I do think we have to see a clean game out of Florida, and they will take it. Let's look at some players that I'm looking at, you guys. Ekblade's still out of this game. He is serving that 2-game suspension after that hit on Brandon Hagel in the first round versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. I do think Austin Matthews, Matthew Knives, definitely playmakers you want to look at here for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I also love William Nylander. You look at William Nylander in the first round. He had 9 points, 3 goals, 6 assists. 4 power play points in that first round, 1 goal, 3 assists is included in those 9 points. But I would look at him for the point tonight. I want to do the power play point. The point's going to be juicy. So you're going to have to parlay it with someone and not parlay it with Matthew Knives. Austin Matthews just hasn't been getting those goals. And Mitch Marner has been playing strong as well. But I do like Matthew Knives to really come out so strong in this matchup. So Knives and Nylander for a point tonight, I will be looking at. But on the other side, it's Florida, because I think Florida is going to win this. I can see Florida winning this 3-1 because of an empty netter. Low scoring game under the 5.5. Matthew Tkachuk, of course, had 5 points in game number 1. Series number 1, 3 goals and 2 assists. He got 2 goals in the very first game coming back. Brad Marchand, we cannot deny what he's been able to do when he was with Boston versus the Maple Leafs, so especially in the playoffs. So looking at Brad Marchand for the point tonight, he's plus 114. For the assist, he's plus 240. I wouldn't rule out him getting 2 points in this one. He had 4 points, all coming via the assist in the first round versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. But then when we break him down, this is his 5th career playoff series against the Leafs. So he played in 2013, and this was all with Boston. 2013, 2018, 2019, 2024. And each of those series, Brad Marchand was involved in, and we did see the Boston Bruins win it. So in those 4, he's been able to get the win with the Boston Bruins. He has the 6th most playoff points against the Leafs in NHL history with 29. I'm looking for Brad Marchand for that point at plus 114. You could take the assist at plus 240 because that's what we've been seeing him facilitating those goals. But if you just want to look, maybe a sprinkle on 2+ if you just take him for the point there. Then it's got to be about Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart. Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart, so strong out there on the ice. They add that depth for this team. Now I know there's a ton of playmakers over there for Florida, but Bennett and Reinhart we've been rolling with since the first round versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Sam Bennett did not disappoint. He had a point in 4 of the 5 games versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. His point tonight coming in at minus 105. His 2+ points at plus 520. Why I'm leaning towards the 2+ points for Sam Bennett, even though I think it's a lower scoring game, you guys, is because we still could get that 4-1 because of empty netter situations. But the 2+ points, the value is there, and he has had a point in the last 5 versus the Maple Leafs, and 3 of those were multi-point games. So in 5 games, 3 multi-pointers, I'm willing to take a shot at plus 520 for a sprinkle for Sam Bennett for 2+ points. I'll take him for the 1+ point, but also sprinkle for the 2. Now, Sam Reinhart, there's no denying last year in the playoffs what he did on the power play, as well as in the regular season. Sam Reinhart just steps up to that next level on the power play out there. His power play point tonight coming in at plus 210. He leads the Panthers in the regular season with 30 power play points. And then we look at him. He had 2 power play points versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the last 2 times he faced the Toronto Maple Leafs, we did see a power play point back in March and April versus the Leafs. I do think Sam Reinhart can get that power play point tonight. But you can take it a safer way. Just look at Sam Reinhart for a point, Sam Bennett for a point, and then Brad Marchand for the point. That's 3 players for a point, which I know is a lot when we're really looking at a lower scoring game. But I absolutely could see Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart both getting a point on one play out there. So it's going to be a great day on the ice for the Sam. So looking at those lineups and what we're seeing out there, projected lineups for these teams, because you want to make sure if you're taking one guy for a goal, you're taking the other guy for the assist, you're taking those lines and getting those points. Verhaeghe, Barkov, and Reinhart on that top line for the Florida Panthers. We do have Bennett and Tkachuk on that second line. Brad Marchand is on the third line. So that is where we're looking there. When we look at the Leafs, we got Matthew Knies, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner on that first line. That first line absolutely needs to find a way to get things done. Like I said, I really like Matthew Knies. I like Mitch Marner. Austin Matthews, he just hasn't looked so great. But it is William Nylander down on that second line. So maybe looking at John Tavares and William Nylander might be a better way. You've got McMahon and Domi down on that third line as well. It's going to be absolute chaos out there tonight. I really do think such a physical game. So this is going to be a good one. No two parlays, one. Laughing out loud, not two legs. Okay. Leaning towards the Florida Panthers. Puck line minus a half a goal in the first period. Panthers minus 1.5 in the under for the total. Kev, I completely agree with you. I do think this is a 3-1 game with the Florida Panthers scoring fast and then really locking down on the defensive side. The pressure under the Toronto Maple Leafs right now, being on their home ice, I think this actually would have been an easier game for them if they were out there on the road. And I know that's contradictory, but those home fans will be brutal if Florida scores first. So looking at that first period, total goals under 1.5 coming in at minus 110. I could see Florida scoring to themselves and then locking down. So I'm a little nervous with that. The Florida Panthers on the money line in the first period is minus 122. If you think it's going to be 0-0, I would take the minus 122. But you can look at the puck line. I do like the puck line. You're going to get great plus money. The Florida Panthers on the puck line at plus 180 in the first period, Kev, I think is a fantastic bet. Something that I'll definitely be putting in because we know this team can start off fast. They're going to look to do so. Now, can this game go to overtime? I don't think it can. Now, while I do think this is going to be a tight game, a lower scoring game at plus 340, not enough value to go to overtime in this matchup. I think as we look at the second game in Toronto, especially if this one plays out as I expect with Florida getting the win, we look at that second game in Toronto, probably to go to OT when we see Toronto really being able to find a way to extend this game and hopefully get a win in the second, because we do want to see a competitive series still out here. I don't want to see any team get completely dominated. Matthew Knies, I would not say no to 2+ points. I actually think it's a really solid way to go. Top line, top power play. He's got the playmakers with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews around him as well. So Matthew Knies for the 1 point is coming in at minus 125. You don't have to lay that much juice, and I'd rather look at him than an Austin Matthews for the 2+, because look at that 2+ for Matthew Knies. It's plus 440 or plus 430. So a great way to go. You've got Verhaeghe coming in for the Florida Panthers at 2+ points at plus 420. I do think it would be Sam Bennett who I'd look at, though, for the Florida Panthers. Like I said, Brad Marchand, though, interesting look at him for 2+ points with his ability to really upset Toronto. Brad Marchand coming in at plus 600. You guys, I got to take a shot on Brad Marchand. I will look at Sam Bennett plus 520 as well. Both of those guys for 2+ points for a little bit of Starbucks coffee money. I'm absolutely in. So, and I think the depth here of Toronto, you're going to see Florida all over those main guys. Matthew Knies, though, has a way of opening up, because they will focus on Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. So looking at Knies out there, he's like not the weaker link, but he's not the guy that they're going to be increasingly pressuring on that forecheck, where you're going to see them just all over Marner and Matthews. So looking at Knies, I think, is a great way. But then looking further down, looking at that depth of Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley for 2+ points, man, that is a nice price at plus 900. So I do think there's a couple of places to sprinkle on these player props out there, you guys. I cannot believe we're coming up against 20 minutes and I am still talking here about the same game. You guys know I'd sit here and talk to you for 3 hours if possible. Let's get into the recap let's talk about those players. Let's talk about those points, and let's get this day going. So current lines right now, let's just pull these up one more time. Make sure there's no movement. A little bit of movement. Minus 126 for the Florida Panthers. I will take that. I also think this one stays under the 5.5. I like the Florida Panthers better than I do the under here. So if you're just looking to take the one, I do think Kev is completely right. The Florida Panthers in the first period, I can absolutely see them winning that first period. You lay the half a goal on that puck line, you're getting plus 180. If you just want to take the money line and avoid, and then maybe get the push, if it goes 0-0, 1-1, that's coming in at minus 122. I think at worst you'd push on the money line, but I do suspect the Florida Panthers will score first here on Stolarz. Bobrovsky is the better goaltender, and you should be able to cash that first period there for the Florida Panthers on that puck line at plus 180. So definitely get that bet in. I will look here at the player props. Brad Marchand for a point at plus 114. 2+ points for Brad Marchand, worth a shot at plus 600. Again, 29 career points versus the Toronto Maple Leafs in his career. He's going to come out nice and strong. Sam Bennett for a point at minus 105. 2+ points at plus 520 for Bennett as well. He had a point in 4 of the 5 games versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And in the last 5 games versus Toronto, he's had 3 multi-point games and 1 point in each that he hasn't had those multi-point games. So he is fantastic versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then Sam Reinhart, elite on that power play. Absolutely can cash us that power play point at plus 210. You could just look at the regular point as well. He had 2 power play points versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then looking at the Leafs, it has to be Matthew Knies here for the point, minus 125. 2+ points coming in at plus, what was he for 2+ points, you guys? I'm going to get that in for Matthew Knies at 2+ points. I really like it. And I love when you guys throw out stuff like that. Plus 430 for Matthew Knies. I will be hitting on that. And then the other player, I do think, even though I think Toronto struggles to score, I think it's worth a shot, right? Looking at Nylander for his points, 9 points in the first round. William Nylander coming in here at minus 186 for the point. So instead of doing that, what I'd look at is I'd look at William Nylander for the point and Matthew Knies for the point and parlay them together and get yourself great plus money. So you guys, it's going to be a fantastic night out there on the ice. Thank you so very much for joining me here for Puck with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X. It is a beautiful Monday. I hope you guys absolutely enjoy it. Don't forget, I will be on Sports Rage tonight with Gabe Morency. So join me there. And it looks like I will be tomorrow on Newswire at 11:40 a.m. So make sure you come on over and check that out as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow, you guys. All the best in all of your bets.